Hi everybody, today I'm going to be teaching about color theory. I will go through a slideshow which I will post for you later, that you can go through the slideshow presentation on your own later, but I figured that I would need to explain each slide so that you have more background and can gain the knowledge properly. And then I'll be showing you some examples, the color theory worksheet that I will also post if you want to start a new one at home. You can print it, and I'll show you what it should look like when it's finished, and I'll explain what the back page is, if you guys remember from me showing it to you before we left during the school closures. I had said don't do that second page on the color theory packet because we were going to do that when we came back. So you guys can print that at home if you'd like to start it over. Let me switch the camera and I will show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so for color theory, this first page that you're looking at just explains that in the color spectrum, there are 12 basic, I guess most common colors to a basic color wheel. And there's a trick to remembering the order of the colors in the rainbow. If you look right here, it says Roy G. Biv. You kind of pretend that it's a person's name. Roy, middle initial G, last name Biv. That's just an acronym that artists have come up with to remember the order of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Now, indigo is only actually in actual rainbows that exist in nature. When it comes to colored pencils and paint, the manufacturers will make a color that looks like indigo or that we think is similar to indigo. It's sort of a really, really dark blue. It's like a cross between blue and violet. But true indigo is invisible to the naked eye. So just an interesting little tidbit there. Okay, 3 properties of colors. You've got hue, which is a synonym. It just means the name of the color. Intensity, how bright or how dull the color is. And value, how light or dark the color is. Okay? Now, start with intensity. High intensity colors are brighter, more intense. Low intensity colors are going to be more dull and turn more toward gray. By the way, if it seems like the lighting in here during the video is changing, it's because I'm in my classroom and the clouds are passing overhead. There's a skylight in my room. Excuse me. So, bright green versus a really dull would be more gray, low intensity. Many shades. And here's value. Intensity versus value, okay? The way that I explain this to students is if you imagine having a really intense conversation with a friend of yours. If you've ever had a conversation with someone where you walked away thinking, oh man, that was intense. Or you're in a situation in life where you think to yourself, oh my gosh, I can't believe what just happened. That was so intense. The reason you use that word is because it implies the idea of being packed full of experience or packed full of emotion or packed full of details. So for color, if you're talking about an intense color, it's very, very bright. Okay? Less intense, not very much of that color involved. Okay? And then value in color has to do with how much white is added or how much black is added. Okay? So you can take a green and you can add black to it. That changes the value of the green. If you add white to it, it changes the value of the green that way. Okay? Primary, secondary, and intermediate colors. Blue, yellow, and red are your primaries. This means that they are the first 3 colors. Primary means first. You have to use these 3 colors in order to create all other colors in existence. You cannot make blue, red, or yellow. They are primary. What I mean is you can't make red, blue, or yellow from your own paints. they are made by, you know, minerals in the ground and colorants from plants and things like that by companies. So obviously they can be made in that way. But you as an artist with colored pencils or paint, you can't make blue, red, or yellow. Every color from there is made by combining these three and adding either white or black. Okay? So then your secondary colors are your second grouping of colors. Combining any two primaries is going to create a secondary. So if you look at these two, red and blue, you combine those two, it creates violet. Combining these two creates orange. Combining these two creates green. That is why green is sitting where it is, because it's halfway between these. Combining those two makes green sit right there. Combining these two makes orange sit right there. Combining these two makes violet sit right there. Okay? And then intermediate, you could also call this tertiary. Tertiary colors means the third grouping, or intermediate. And each of these colors sits halfway between the two colors that created it. So if you look at these two colors, that would be the combination of a primary plus a secondary equals an intermediate. It's like a math problem, honestly. 1 plus 2 equals 3. No. Yes. 1 plus 2 equals 3. Okay? Sometimes people think that when you get this third grouping of colors, they think it's the idea of combining two secondaries. But if you think about it like math, 2 plus 2 equals 4. So if there was a fourth grouping of colors over here, which there is, those are called quaternary colors. That's how you would make that. 2 plus 2 equals 4. Okay? 1 plus 2 equals 3. So this color right here would be the combination of blue plus violet equals blue-violet. Okay? Red plus violet equals red-violet. And so on. You can figure it out. That's the explanation of that page. Okay, color temperature. You've got warm and cool colors. The way that I explain this is that the side of the color wheel that includes all your reds and oranges and yellows, we call those warm because they remind us of things like the sun and flames and, you know, anything involving heat. Even though blue is combined into red-violet, it's more on the red side, and so that's why it should be included with warm colors. When you look on the cool side of things, cool colors are your blues and greens, and the way that I think of this is, think about the ocean and water and plant life that needs water to survive. Okay, there's the leaves and things that grow tend to be green. And the reason why yellow-green, even though yellow is a warm color, the reason why yellow-green is involved on this side is because it appears more green. There's more green involved, and that's more cool than warm. That's my explanation for that. Oh, this is an interesting little thing I just saw here. Psychologically, warm colors are said to be stimulating and passionate, and cool colors tend to be more calming. Just an interesting little psychological tidbit there. Optically, warm colors generally appear to advance, coming toward the viewer. So if you're trying to make something in your artwork appear closer, you might want to consider using somewhat warmer colors. Things that have cooler colors may appear to be farther back in your artwork. Complementary colors. Notice this is an E, complementary, not complimentary. That's not an I. If you give someone a compliment on their hairstyle or their outfit, that is spelled with an I right there. Complementary means opposing colors on the color wheel. Okay? Literally opposite each other. So yellow and violet, orange and blue, green and red. Okay, anything. Now, you could extrapolate this and you could make this color wheel have 1,000,000 colors like a computer screen has. Computer screens have millions and millions of colors, and television sets. And this is still something that exists. You know, if you could pinpoint a specific color on a color wheel that had 1,000,000 colors on it and then find its exact opposite, those technically would be complementary colors. If you think about complementary colors, it's generally, there's always exceptions to this, but it's generally thought that you wouldn't want to wear clothing or do any type of interior design with totally opposing colors. In general, if you walked on campus or you walked out in public wearing, you know, a yellow shirt and purple pants, you'd be standing out so much, it would look so opposite that it might look odd. A little bit strange. Now, obviously, it depends on the situation. Maybe you're doing it on purpose or for costume or something, and then that makes sense. But in general, with what's considered to be beautiful in fashion, wearing complementary colors is not a good thing. Now, taking that into account, if you think about the Los Angeles Lakers colors, violet and yellow, why do they do that on purpose? That is because, since they are opposing colors, they stand out intentionally on the basketball court. The Denver Broncos, orange and blue. Whoops, wrong. There we go. Orange and blue. Okay, same idea. Generally, sports teams are going to intentionally choose complementary colors in order to stand out for fans who are watching them, you know, in an arena of 50,000 people. So that's intentional for that type of situation. Analogous colors. Think of the word analogy in your English classes. What's an analogy? Analogies are when in English, it's when you're comparing things to each other. So this burrito is as hot as the sun. You're comparing a burrito to the sun, right? An analogy. So analogous colors are any three colors on the color wheel that sit right next to each other. They look similar to each other, they belong near each other, and since they're similar, they're analogous. So here's an artwork with analogous color scheme. So you've got yellow, yellow-orange, orange, and red-orange. And they're all very similar colors to each other. So that is what we call an analogous color scheme. A color triad is literally any three colors that are equal distance on the color wheel. It doesn't have to be primaries. This particular artwork happens to be primaries, but it could be any three that are equal distance apart. Okay? So we could shift this and you could look at blue-green and yellow-orange and red-purple. I don't like that it says purple, by the way. I prefer the violet. Violet is accurate. Anyway, those three are a triad. Okay, now, before when I was talking about not wearing complementary colors in fashion or in interior design because it's a little bit too bold and too opposing, what you would want to do instead for fashion reasons or for makeup or for interior design, and in costume design, film sets, all sorts of things. Start paying attention to this when you're out in the world, driving around, looking at billboards, or if you're looking at magazine covers, or you're watching designs on television and ads, or in costume design in movies. It is the most common color scheme to use split complementary. The makeup of a split complementary color scheme, it's just a recipe for beauty, okay? So a split complementary color scheme. You choose one color, and instead of taking its complement, which would be directly across, you take it, and instead of the blue-green, you split, and you go those two, okay? So if you ignore that color scheme, let's pretend you're looking here, If I wanted to definitely use orange, let's say you have a client who wants to use orange in their room that you're designing for them, you can use orange and then split the complement and go blue, green, and blue, violet. And these can just be accent colors. You can have like one color as the main color and then accent it with the other two. Or maybe these two colors. This is probably what would happen in interior design. You would use the two that are more near each other. They're almost basically analogous. Blue, green, and blue, violet, which are really beautiful together. And then you would use orange as the accent. So let's say you have a lot of blue, green, and a lot of blue, violet drapes and carpets and, artworks hanging on the walls. And then on the couch, you put a couple orange pillows. Or maybe a small accent rug with some orange in it. Okay? Little pops of color. That's a split complementary color scheme. And here's an artwork that involves a split complementary color scheme. Red, orange, blue, and green. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Monochromatic. Mono means one, chroma means color. One color. So a monochromatic color scheme is where you take one specific color, so blue, as example. Adding black to it will shade the color. Adding white to it will tint the color. Okay? Tints are adding white, shades are adding black. So a monochromatic color scheme is one color plus white and black. That's the end of the color theory slideshow that you'll see. Now let me show you really quickly on here, just a couple quick things. If you're gonna print this out and color one of these at home, I highly recommend that you label on the outside of the triangles before coloring. Do not color anything until you label where the colors should be to begin with. The handout says red on it already, so put your red there and then count equal distance apart to figure out where yellow and blue should go. Okay? But label it first. Write it in pencil before you color. Because even me, someone who's been doing art professionally, for 20 plus years, if I don't write it down first and I just randomly start coloring it in, I'm very likely to make a mistake and put something in the wrong spot. Okay? So label it first. Then on the rest of these little wheels, put your primaries where they belong according to how you colored this. Put your secondaries where they actually belong. The intermediates where they actually belong. There should be 6 of these. Primary triad, you're repeating this because it's to reinforce the word triad. Do your cool half here. Do your warm half here. Secondary triad, again, this is a repeat of that one because it's to reinforce the idea of the word triad. Analogous, any 3 colors. You do not have to do the same ones I did. Any 3. Just pick any 3 you want. Monochromatic. Pick one color that you like. Green. Excuse me. Green is my favorite color. Leave the first triangle white. Color very, very light green, gradually darker, and then start adding some black on top of it. Okay? I saw a couple of you before the break who had done this very beautifully, shaded very beautifully, but had not actually put black on top of it. That is what you do need to do here for it to actually be monochromatic. The idea is one color from white to black. That last triangle is all black. Intermediate triad, this is a repeat of, kind of a repeat of that one, except you're only choosing 3. And if it's a triad, they have to be equal distance apart. Complementary, any 2 opposites, any 2. Split complementary, start with whichever color you would like to, and then split that complement. You will find a page of definitions included in the packet. Feel free to read through those for help. And then, this is an example. This is back when I was called Blumenthal, not Tkach. This is an example of one possible color scheme. You will choose any color scheme based on the presentation that you just listened to. I chose split complementary as an example. And then you're going to name the 3 colors that you're going to use in your color scheme. So let's say you wanted to choose monochromatic. What would you put here? What if you chose monochromatic blue? What 3 colors are you going to put right here? Pretend that says monochromatic. First color is blue. What the heck do I put there? White and black. Blue, white, and black. If you're doing monochromatic, okay? So you're going to choose a specific color scheme and name the specific 3 colors that you're planning to use for the project that I will have you do. And then you label that and then color only those 3 colors that you've chosen on this wheel. If you're going to do monochromatic, for instance, let's start with white, go blue around, and start adding black to it, and then end up with black. If you're literally only doing 3 separate colors, then just put those 3 where they belong. Okay, now let me show you where we're leading with this, and I'll do this on a separate assignment. You are going to take an object that you have at home. I would prefer it be one of, required. It needs to be one of the following 3 objects: a backpack, a pair of shoes, or a purse. That's it. Those are your choices. They're equal difficulty level, and it's something that somebody as a student always has. That's why those 3 objects. No arguing with me. I don't want to hear your questions about, can I please draw my iPad? No, that's a boring block of metal and glass. That's not interesting to draw. Okay, backpack, purse, or shoes. Now, you're going to lay the object down in an interesting position on the table in front of you and sketch what you see. The challenge is that whatever's closest to you has to be drawn low on the page, and the parts of the object that are farther away from you will appear higher on the page. You have to break down the object in your mind and flatten it onto a sheet of paper by yourself. You're looking at a 3-dimensional object in real life, and you have to trick your brain into imagining that you're looking at it on a sheet of paper already flattened out. This is an example of a practice sketch. If you guys were in the class with me, I would have you practice a sketch on paper with me in class, and then we would do a larger version later. This is one example. Oh, and you know what? I do not want you to shade it. Don't shade it. Instead of this, you do something more like that, where it's just basic lines, just contour lines. Just contour lines. Pay attention to folds in fabric. The line here cuts in. This pops up and out based on the way the person laid it on the table. If you're going to do this over the course of a couple days and you're going to move the object, you might want to take a photo of it to remind you what position it was sitting in, but then don't cheat and try to draw from the photo later. The photograph is cheating because a photo has already flattened everything for you. I want you drawing from real life. Okay, another example. Let's see if I can zoom out a little bit for this one. No, okay. So, a really awesome purse drawing, purse sketch. I think you guys can see most of the object there. Paying attention to the folds of the fabric. There's buckles, stitching. Notice things like interlocking chains and how, you can give the illusion of something bending. The illusion of this part of the chain coming forward. Excuse me. And then locking, crossing underneath it. Okay, so there's that example. Then that object, I think I have this as a finished printout. Hold on one second. Is it this one? No, I don't know if I have that one anymore. I used to have that as a laminated. Okay, so in the slideshow, you'll see this one colored in the slideshow. But you're going to take that color scheme that you chose here. Remember, I chose that color scheme as an example. The reason you're choosing a color scheme is because that's going to determine how you color this after you've sketched it. One color will be the main color, and the other two colors will be used for shadows and highlights. So let me show you how that works. Okay. Whoop, goes this way. Example. This backpack is drawn with all three colors actually kind of blended and mixed together, but the student understood the idea that violet is darker than blue, and so in the shadow areas, this is a really dark violet, and in the lighter areas where it's supposed to look like the fabric is lighter, they use the lightest blue for the highlighted areas. And then the sort of medium blue is in kind of the medium shaded areas, and then layered with violet for darker shadows. Let me show you another example. Shoes, boots. Okay. This is done with violet, I think blue violet, and like another dark blue. This person used violet as their main color for the majority of the fabric, and then they just pressed a little harder in some areas where it's supposed to look shaded. Then they used the other two colors as accent colors, embellishments. So like the soles of the shoe and the interior were with the second color, and then the third color for this section. So that's another option. This is a split complementary color scheme. This person used one of the colors with shading and highlighting, just the amount of pressure they used on the fabric. The second color just for this part of the bag, and the third color for this part of the bag. So if you're using a split complementary color scheme, you could do it that way as well. Here's another split complementary. There's three colors used here. You could consider this split complementary or cool. These are all cool colors. Blue is used in certain sections of the bag, the main color being green, again pressing harder and lighter to convey the idea of shadows and highlights, and then violet used on like the zippers and part of the strap. So that's a split complementary or cool color scheme. I think they added the red just for like an accent color for that, but... Okay, another example. One main color, pressing harder, lighter, showing all the folds of fabric. I think this one was laying down, actually. I think that's the direction this one was going. This is definitely split complementary. This blue, this orange, and this version of red. Again, different sections of the backpack chosen for the different colors. Another example of shoes. If your soles are white, you can leave them white. I don't know if I said this. I don't care if your shoes or your bag or whatever you're coloring, whatever you're drawing, is black or gray, or maybe it's a bright color. You're going to ignore that. You're going to just sketch the shape of the object and then use the chosen color scheme that you did on the worksheet to actually color this. These shoes were not these colors when the student drew this. This person's backpack was very likely black, honestly, but then she colored it with these colors. So keep that in mind. Show a couple more and then I'll end this video. Okay, orange, red, orange, and red, I believe. I believe this was analogous. Oh, there's yellow, orange right here. So yellow, orange, and red. Analogous, for sure. Okay. Darker orange in here. Darker orange down at the base of the shoes where there's kind of a shadow where the fabric curves. Lighter orange up top. Red for the laces. And then the grommets are the yellow-orange color. Look at the twisting of the laces. Move this up. Look at the way the lace twists right there. And then in those folds, you're going to naturally have shading in there. There's a shadow on this shoe from this one. Arrange, if you're doing shoes, arrange them in an interesting way. If you're doing a backpack, don't try to puff your backpack up perfectly. Allow it to crumple and fold. It's way more interesting that way. All right, last one. Another purse. Okay. Folding straps with a highlight and shadows. There's a design on here. If you've got a crazy design on your bag or backpack or shoes that you want to ignore, that's fine. Maybe you've got a plaid backpack or something and you don't really want to draw all that. That's fine. Keep it simple. But some of my students had chosen to actually go ahead and do the design. All right, I think that's it. Just practice for now. Go through the slideshow. Color your color wheel. If you're able to print this at home. If you have no opportunity to print, let me know. I'm hoping most of you can, and I'm hoping most of you have colored pencils or can get some cheap ones. I don't care if they're Prismacolors. I will also post an image of the list of names of Prismacolor pencils that was written on my whiteboard that are best to use for this. So for instance, red, the best red for Prismacolor is not called red, it's called crimson. The best green is called grass green. This one's called apple green. Things like that. I've got a whole list. I'll post an image of that as well, just to help you. The Crayola ones and other brands tend to be just called red, green, violet, things like that. So do this if you can. If you can't, here's the thing. If you can't print, just draw this. Draw yourself a 12-section pie chart, right? Draw yourself some mini ones and label them, and then color it. There you go. There's the answer to that. Okay? Just draw what you see on blank paper. Okay? If you can print, do it. It makes it easier. But if you can't print, you can just draw one. Okay? And then I'd like you to attempt sketching backpack, shoes, or purse while it actually sits on the table in front of you, live. Don't cheat and take a photo of it and then draw from the photo. Do not do that. That is a totally different section of your brain when it comes to translation from what your eyes see to what your hand does. Okay? I want you drawing from life. And I'll do another video in a couple days showing how to actually sketch something from life. For now, all you need to do is finish the color theory packet. And then by next week, I will post a tutorial on how to sketch from life. If you want to start practicing, you can. All right? Thanks, guys.